What's up, guys? It's week number 4 that Brian and I are going to do an improvement of the week for eBay. We're just going to have a quick conversation on improving one aspect of eBay, and we'll try to do that all year long and see where we are at the end of the year. So it's all about compounding. Brian, this week's topic is about narrowing down your niche. So this is incredibly difficult because, and as I'm noticing doing this 100-item challenge that's not clothing, there's a lot of decisions you need to make when you are selling things you've never sold before. And I think that's where people get caught up because they have to think about, how do I price this? How do I clean this? What's the condition? How do I test it? How do I grade it? Where do I get it? So right now, you've been dealing with this since I met you. And I want people to realize it's not that easy to narrow down your niche. You have to really take your time. And inside the Patreon group, because this is going on YouTube, we talk about how to find items locally. And so once you know that, you kind of have an idea of what's around you, you can start building your business. But Brian, what are you working on when it comes to narrowing your niche? Have you decided? Are you still struggling with it?
Well, as you mentioned, like I started as probably all of us do as an everything seller, garage sales, just selling everything hard goods. And I think that's valuable for everyone to kind of learn how to sell on eBay, what sells, how to ship different things, to figure out what you like to sell, what's profitable. And, since joining your group over a year ago, at that point, I was selling shoes full time. And then we kind of merged with you and tech and sports. And then for all of last year, I did nothing but clothes, which for me is actually a pretty massive achievement because I definitely have squirrel brain. Minus a stint here or there doing a storage locker or whatnot. It was 99% clothes. And I saw the power of niching down by doing that. And when I think of niching down, it makes me think of the one thing with Gary Keller where he's talking about Pareto's law, the Italian economist, 19th century, who made the statement that 80% of the land was owned by 20% of the population in Italy. And from that 80-20 rule has kind of come down from him. And what Gary Keller talks about is, like, if you think about it, if you're a reseller and you're selling everything, so the 80-20 law, you would realize that maybe 20% of what you're selling gives you 80% of your profits. So maybe you narrow down to clothing as a big broad category. And as I've had that experience over the past year, I've kind of realized that even though I narrowed down to clothing, there are a few categories within clothing that give me the majority of my results. So to try to become even more efficient and to become an expert further, I want to narrow down to like what James Clear would say is, like, you would do the 80-20, 80-20, 80-20 until you get to your one thing. So maybe you take all of clothing and you bring it down to your 3 best categories. And then if you want to do it further, what's your best category within those 3? So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
So this is great because the 80-20 rule applies to everything. And you have to have a baseline before you can determine the 80-20. So I think it's important to do enough volume. This is really interesting. I just posted a video about Mercari, and I found it interesting because people were saying in the comment section that their sales fluctuate wildly. And I asked a few of these people how many sales they have each year. All of them, their sales were relatively low, like under $200 a day. I would consider low sales on eBay. The fluctuations are so dramatic when you only sell a few items. So I think when you're an everything seller, you need to sell enough volume to start doing some probabilities in your mind. You will start to naturally notice what's easier to find, what takes longer, what's harder to ship. Yesterday, my Vitamix blender pitcher sold. So I had to make a box for it. So it took me a few extra seconds to make a box for it. But since last week, I had to make 6 boxes. It didn't take that long. It only took a minute and a half to make a box for a Vitamix blender pitcher and securely put it in. So as long as you have some experience, and over time, I start to realize, okay, you know what? I don't mind selling blender parts because they're not fragile. They're actually extremely durable. So it'd be different than selling something else that you'd be worried about. I don't even think I need to put bubble wrap or packing paper around a blender pitcher as long as it doesn't move in the box. I think it would be fine. But I still put packing paper around it, but it wouldn't get damaged moving around the box because it's made out of commercial plastic. So thinking about what you sell, and then parts sell really well. If you look at Vitamix blender versus Vitamix blender parts, the parts sell extremely well, right? There's millions of them out there, and people have done something and broken one piece of it, and they don't want to replace the whole item. So you can narrow down. You know what? Vitamix sells really well for me, but the parts sell even better. Can I contact a appliance repair shop and let them know, okay, all the blenders, just tell the person we'll offer you $35 for it, or you can fix it for $50. Some people may just take the money and go buy a new blender. So what we did is we replaced the Vitamix pitcher because we wanted one that was shorter, got rid of this one. And now I'm thinking, okay, blenders is a cool category. There's a really, really fast sell-through rate. But could I find enough blenders in my area? That would be the next question. So I think narrowing it down has a lot to do with what you can get and also how it ships, how it stores. Before the call today, you and Scott were discussing storing different size items. That's something to consider. The Vitamix pitcher, because it was so tall compared to a piece of clothing, it had to go into my box sideways, and that takes up more space. So depending on how much space you have, the square footage of your inventory while it's not selling is important. And then also, like for me in the clothing category, when I sell a trench coat or a leather jacket or a ski jacket, I price it under market because I don't want to use that much space.
That's interesting. And I think that's a really good point that you made, that when you've got to spend time doing volume with everything and then kind of figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you also have to figure out what's available in your area. And I know in our group, Christine, we did a call with Tech that kind of laid that secret sauce out, but you got to be in the group for that. But once you figure that out, and then it's like, well, what is your storage system going to look like? And it's going to be individualized, like what Scott and I were talking about. I basically am using your system because I sell basically the same things, maybe a little different, but it's the same category. But if you niche down to, let's say vacuum cleaner parts or vacuum cleaners, your storage system is going to look a lot different. And then I think a related thing you need to consider is your shipping. If you're selling clothing, you're probably just going to be using, poly bags, flat rate envelope, flat rate padded envelope, and maybe a box or two. So you know what that looks like. But as an everything seller, when I was an everything seller, I had a big giant stack of boxes, and I kept all boxes because I never knew what size box I would need. So that's going to affect your shipping and also your inventory system. So you need to consider all these things as you're niching down, if you decide to niche down.
Yeah, I think that the key to almost everything is volume. Do you want to do something every single day? If you want to create a diet change or an exercise change or a family change, you have to think about something that you can do forever. You can't just be nice today and tomorrow you're a jerk. That doesn't work for the relationship. So if you're going to sell something, you're going to sell hats today and tomorrow you're going to sell vacuum cleaners. It's very disorienting, right? So you have a relationship with your store, just like a relationship with a person. Imagine if you're Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and every single day you're different. Your relationship is going to be messed up. Consistency is important. It's almost disrespectful to your store to bring things that are not related. So for you, since you're in a couple different categories, if you do shoes and clothing, right? The obvious answer would be if you pick shoes or clothing, that category would get all of your attention and it would grow. But there's also the fear that that's too narrow, maybe, and you're missing out on sales, or maybe you're missing out on easy deals along the way. So how do you handle those two platforms, or not two platforms, but two categories?
Yeah, I think you laid out the dilemma perfectly, because we know, and Gary Keller even mentioned this. Like, the idea is very simple of niching down, but actually executing it is difficult. What Well, when I looked at and I analyzed, like, eBay gives us a lot of data. You can look in under your sales report, and they break down sales by category, the percentage change, and of course there's seasonality, and you've got to factor that in. Like, shorts are going to be down, jackets and sweaters are going to be up right now. That's a given. But looking at that data, using Terapeak, looking at sell-through rate, and then coupling that in with your own experience of what you're shipping or what you're having issues with, has helped me narrow it down. And I know for me, I've narrowed it down to two, and I'm grappling with that. I think I'm just going to do one. I think 2022, like how 2021 was all clothing, I think 2022 I want to trust the one thing and just do one thing. But the two things I would consider, and it's all these considerations, like, can you get the supply, which I think I can, or I know I can. For me, it's men's jeans and shoes. And then further looking at ASP and sell-through rate, I think I'm going to just do shoes. Like, I want to do shoes. The last consideration, because I spent a lot of time thinking about this over the past couple of weeks, like, in my mind, like, I was early on last year, I was ramping up. I had VAs. I wanted to grow too fast, and I wasn't ready for that. And, after talking to Tech and thinking about it, where he said the 30 to 50 a day, you can stack a lot of money, and it can be a one-person show easily. And I know with shoes, I can hit that range, and my ASP will be higher. My sell-through rate will be where it wants to be. And I think I could hit my goals where I'm at right now. And who knows, maybe in the future, after a year or two, maybe I bring in somebody, and then maybe we add clothes, and maybe I have somebody that just does clothing. But for right now, I think it's just going to be shoes for 2022.
So I think also something I want to point out is, if you narrow it down into a specific niche, that has to be something that you do forever. And I think that's a good way to look at it. And then you can sell stuff on the side extra, and that doesn't hurt your store, but it does hurt your store if you change the things that go into your store, because then the traffic can be variable. So if you decide to do a 10 a day shoe habit or 20 a day shoe habit and just leave it at 20 all year, you can of course do 5 clothing, jeans, hats, whatever you find in addition to that. Tom is asking, when is the best time to niche down? The short answer is as soon as possible. So if right from the beginning you said, I'm only going to sell cell phones, you'd eliminate being an everything seller, because your everything would just be, do I sell Android or iPhone? Do I sell iPhone 8 or 9? But that's easier because all of them ship the exact same way. All of them are usually first class mail. All of them have the same checklist for what to erase before you send it to the customer. You save yourself time. But so the short answer to when do you niche down is as soon as possible. And usually I don't see the problem of I'm too narrow, other than I'm too narrow produces the problem of I can't find enough inventory, which is okay. If you decide not to deviate, you will eventually find enough inventory. Yesenia is asking if you use a VA anymore.
Not for reselling. It's all me right now, because, and that's the caveat to this. Like, I have a lot of clothing, and I'm still going through my old listings, and they're very poorly done. So as I go into shoes, I am going to be doing a larger percentage of working my old listings.
Yeah.
But to answer a question, I don't have a VA for reselling. I did hire a VA as a video editor for my YouTube channel,
Mm-hmm.
because that that's a whole different ball game, and the rates are very inexpensive. So not for reselling, but yes, as a video editor.
I'm going to show here an example of Tino, the Soul Advisor. Shout out to Tino out there. 7,321 shoe listings, all shoes. 16,000 feedback. He's selling 210 shoes, or feedback is 210. So I would guess he's selling around 800, maybe 1,000 pairs of shoes, because people who buy shoes don't necessarily leave that much feedback. So that's like 30 a day.
Around 800. We're at 4 times as well.
Okay. So let's say he's selling conservatively 30. Let's just say 30 a day. So my store is like half this size, and I have twice as many sales. So that's something that people who sell shoes and clothing don't know. When you do shoes, the sell-through rate should be slower, but the ASP is higher. So you have to determine, do you want to be a ridiculously fast sell-through rate, or do you want to be a medium sell-through rate? Do you want to be all long tail? And this is an example of no best offer, right? Because people are asking, do you want to use best offer or not? He doesn't have to. Just set the price, no best offers. Will you get less sales? Yes. Are you okay with less sales? If you are, don't panic. If you're worried about you need more and more sales, throw the best offer on there. So it just depends. Go ahead.
Yeah, see, he is using a 30% markdown sell. He does returns, but not free returns. So I'm curious if he did best offer. I don't think I saw a coupon there also. If he used a small coupon and offered free returns, like what would happen to his sales? Because we know those are all things that eBay is evaluating us in the quality listing report.
Yeah. So I think this is important also to realize the income goal. So Yesenia had asked if I would ever interview Tino. I have before, actually, on my channel a long time ago. I haven't done it in this group. And also, Tino was member number 2 of this group a long time ago. So what Tino did was he determined how much money he wants to make. So he wants to make $10,000. He did not want to use his own money. So he found a partner. So the partner said, I'm the money, you do all the work, 50-50. Tino said, okay. So now the goal is very clear. $20,000 profit. So they want to make $20 per shoe. So that's 1,000 shoes sold per month. That's 33 per day. And they're like right there right now. So it determines, and they wanted a 10% sell-through rate each month. Okay. So when you have that math, it's easy to build your store. It's pretty easy. I mean, Isaiah would definitely agree. It's pretty easy to have a 10% sell-through rate in shoes. Not difficult, right?
It's very easy. It's incredible.
So what he's trying to do is pick an easy goal. He doesn't want a difficult goal because difficult is hard. He wants an easy goal. So he reached out to his partner. And Isaiah also, this is a good note for you. When you do all the work and somebody's all the money, they get half the profit. Isaiah's been like thinking about doing stuff as far as financing or leveraging or growing. When you use a private investor, they take half the money, but you get the money immediately. If you ask for money from the bank, they take a really small percentage actually, but then you have to jump through a lot of hoops to get the money. So it depends. You can't ask your friend to give you a bank style loan because that's ridiculous, because you're a lot more risky than if you're going to have your friend jump in and help you, you should give them half. That's how I look at it, because it's very risky for their part. And the people who have the money allow you to do that. So Tino did not have the budget to go out and buy thousands of pairs of shoes, but he knew how to do it. So if you know how to do reselling, you can find the money. And so that's the key. I think maybe Christine had asked, what is the key to finding your niche? Okay. I would say the key to finding your niche is being really good at the details in your listing, figuring out what do these normally sell for? What kind of pictures do I need to take? All of those things help you determine what you don't want to sell. So when I was selling hard goods, I love selling hard goods outside. I mean, it was awesome. All I have to do is put the stuff in my car. If I want to do 30 a day, I like taking pictures outside, drive somewhere cool, go outside, take the pictures outside. Doesn't matter what the background is really, as long as it's clutter free. Take the pictures, put it in my car. I realize now don't do it in Oakland because I might get robbed. So I'll do it somewhere else. But if I just do it somewhere nice, go ahead.
All right. So everything you've learned that you've went through and grown. If for some reason you could not sell clothing or shoes, you had to sell in another category where you are right now, which category would you choose and why?
This is great. Okay. So based on my experiment so far of going thrifting, I probably would pick books. There's always books when I go. If I couldn't sell women's clothing or shoes or books, that would be challenging because that is most of the thrift stores here. I don't find video games or electronics really. The next thing I had to go for is house goods. Unfortunately, because selling home goods is not my favorite. Appliances, toasters, ovens, microwaves, but that's what I would sell next because it's what's most available where I'm at. If I would, there's also, if I decide to go to the Goodwill auctions, the I forgot what it's called. Whatever the pallets are that are called that have all electronics in them, that would be what I would try to buy. And then also below that, I might try selling Costco returns because there's a lot of Costco here, and I might move to the route of the flea market. And since Scott was saying that 10%, you can get Costco returns for sometimes 90% off. From my experience of walking around the Costco things, I think there's definitely some nuance there because a lot of the Costco returns are very damaged. So I don't know how you deal with how much of the Costco returns are unsellable completely. And you balance that with the returns that are brand new and they didn't even open it. So I would pick appliances because there's just so many. I could figure out a way to niche it down. Well, what about you? If you can't sell shoes or clothing, what would you sell?
That's a good question. I think I would be interested in going into golf clubs, listening to the last couple of Tuesday calls and looking at the number of golf clubs. Like I think in your area, I'm curious, I would assume you probably have a lot of golf clubs in that area too.
There's a lot. Yeah.
And knowing that there's a lot of money in that, and you could hit golf club courses and you could try to, you could try to secure more inventory. And I'm assuming, like, I don't know much about it other than just a little bit I've been listening to, that the ASP is high and you're always like, that sport is not going anywhere. Like you've got wealthy, mostly men, but you have wealthy people playing golf and they're willing to spend a lot of money on it. So I think that would be a good category to invest some time in if I was starting out from scratch.
Yeah. If you went golf clubs, it's a massive category and also not a super sensitive price category. Because if you have extra time and extra money, then a couple bucks here and there doesn't matter. Also, since eBay has an older demographic, golf isn't as cool except for Top Golf. Top Golf, very popular. But golf course golf, very much older demographic. Also, people who have the time to spend 8 hours golfing, they have more. I mean, they usually have plenty of money. Otherwise, you don't have the time.
And I guess maybe why that came to mind also within the clothing niche, a big chunk of, a fair chunk of what I sell is golf attire, golf polos, shorts, the shoes as well. Golf shoes sell well. So whether it's clothing or the actual clubs themselves, you can see that that's a very popular sport.
Also, just one more thought before we wrap up the conversation on niches. If now, like if I had to start over right now and I had to go with I couldn't sell shoes or clothing, I would pick appliances because golf clubs are expensive to get into. But if I had more capital, and you can do that once you're patient, is might sell brand new items and just make the difference between the cash back and the retail arbitrage, and do what Jack Weaver does in the group, in his Bolo group, is look for deals. Now, in order to do that and actually make a living, you need an insane amount of money. And I think you need to take advantage of all the credit card points because the margins are so low. So in the last couple of years of doing some retail arbitrage, my credit card limits have expanded greatly. But I could not have done that when I first started. When I first started, I only had like $1,000 on my credit card. So there's no way I could use that to flip to make $100, because the same $1,000 thrifting can make you 1,000 or 2,000. Retail arbitrage, your 1,000 makes you 100. So if you can stay patient over 4 or 5 years of reselling, you'll build up credit, and you could move to the brand new game that requires no processing. You get the items in, you scan it, you post it, you're done. There's no cleaning, there's no testing. Storage is easy. And that's more of a retail model, except for when you retail without a license from the distributor, you can get in trouble. And a lot of people do. That's why a lot of Amazon guys who are true wholesale, I'm sorry, not wholesale, liquidation, they get in trouble from the manufacturers when they sell 20 of the same item on eBay or Amazon, they get in trouble. So that's it for me. I think that niching down just comes down to narrowing down what you do, and how you do it, Christine, would be how you narrow it down faster. Brian, any final thoughts on narrowing down your niche?
No, I think one thing to keep in mind is there has to be some patience. It's going to take, I mean, I know you said as quick as you can, which is true, but at the same time, it takes time to kind of figure all these things out, like what's available, you know, what do you like to ship? What do you not like to ship? What are the sell-through rates? All that takes time. But once you figure that out, then go ahead and niche down. And the point of consistency, you know, then trusting the process and sticking with it, which, to be honest, I've struggled with at times.
Sounds good. Brian, where can they find you if they're looking for you on YouTube?
Yeah, you can find me at Texas Treasures.
And I'll link Brian's channel in the comment section as well. Appreciate you guys. So on Mondays, we're going to do an improvement of the day, of the week, with Brian, just like 15 minutes in the morning. And I think this will be a good start to our week with a focused like improvement of the week. And this week is narrowing down your niche. Thanks, everyone.